1513, a Turkish admiral named Piri Reis drew a map. It showed coastlines no European had ever explored, mountain ranges no living person had ever seen, river valleys that, according to every history book ever written, should not exist because they were buried under kilometers of Arctic ice. Modern sonar technology has now confirmed what was drawn on that map 5 centuries ago. The mountains are real. The rivers are real. The valleys are real. They are simply hidden beneath ice that formed thousands of years before the first known human civilization. The question is, who was alive to map them? And why does every institution with the power to answer that question remain silent? The Piri Reis map was not created from imagination. Piri Reis himself wrote in the margins of his chart that he compiled it from 20 older source maps. Some of those sources, he claimed, dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. Others, he suggested, were even older. In 1929, when the map was rediscovered in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, cartographers dismissed it as a curiosity. But in 1960, a professor at Georgetown University named Charles Hapgood made a discovery that changed everything. When he overlaid the Piri Reis coastlines onto a modern map of the Antarctic and Arctic seafloor, the match was precise, not approximate, not close, precise. Mountain ranges drawn in 1513 align perfectly with underwater ridges confirmed by 20th century sonar. River systems that Piri Reis sketched matched exactly the submerged valleys that modern bathymetric satellites have only recently been able to photograph. Then came the Zeno map of 1558. A Venetian cartographer named Niccolò Zeno published charts of the North Atlantic that showed a sprawling Arctic archipelago, islands with names, coastlines with detail, harbors, forests, rivers, islands that do not appear on any modern map of the Arctic because they are no longer above the water line. Geological surveys confirmed that these exact island formations exist today as underwater ridges and seamounts beneath the Arctic Ocean. Zeno did not invent them. He copied them from something older, something that recorded a world that no longer exists. In 2026, the Arctic Ocean Mapping Initiative released the highest resolution bathymetric skin of the Arctic seafloor ever produced. The data was intended to track glacial retreat and climate change. What it revealed was something else entirely. Beneath kilometers of ice and freezing water, the scans showed a landscape of extraordinary complexity. Mountain ranges rising thousands of meters from the ocean floor, deep river valleys carved by ancient freshwater systems, coastal shelves that once sat above sea level, sculpted by wind and rain and the movement of living things. A world preserved in stone, buried under the sea. When researchers overlay these new bathymetric charts onto the Piri Reis and Zeno maps, the results were not supposed to be possible. Coastline after coastline matched. The phantom island of Friesland, shown on the Zeno map with detailed harbors and river mouths, corresponds precisely to an underwater plateau southeast of Iceland that geologists confirm was above sea level during the last interglacial period. The mountain range that Piri Reis drew along the edge of a northern continent matches a submerged ridge that no surface expedition has ever reached. These are not coincidences. Coincidences do not repeat across multiple independent maps created by different cartographers in different centuries, in different countries. Something connected them, something that knew what the Arctic looked like before the ice came. Here is the problem that no academic institution has been able to solve. The mathematics behind these ancient maps should not exist. The Piri Reis map uses a form of spherical trigonometry that European cartographers did not formally develop until the late 16th century. The projection system used in the Zeno map accounts for the curvature of the Earth in ways that require instruments and mathematical knowledge that official history says did not exist in 1558. Professor Hapgood spent years analyzing the geometric precision of these charts and reached a conclusion that the academic world largely refused to publish. The source maps that Piri Reis copied were not medieval. They were not even ancient in the traditional sense. They were the product of a civilization that possessed accurate global geography at a time when, according to everything we currently teach in schools, humanity was still making tools from stone. In 2019, archaeologists excavating submerged continental shelves off the coast of northern Europe discovered something that cracked the official timeline further. Organized stone structures, tool marks on submerged rock faces, evidence of controlled fire, 12,000 years underwater. These sites were above sea level during the Younger Dryas period, the last great freeze that ended approximately 11,700 years ago. Someone lived there, someone who understood the shape of the world well enough to record it. And when the ice melted and the seas rose and their world disappeared beneath the water, something survived. Their maps survived, passed down through generations, copied and recopied across millennia, until a Turkish admiral in 1513 sat down in Istanbul and, without fully understanding what he was transcribing, drew the coastline of a world that had been gone for 10,000 years. Approximately 11,700 years ago, something catastrophic happened to the Earth. Scientists call it the Younger Dryas termination, a period of rapid, violent climate shift that ended the last ice age not gradually, but suddenly. Within decades, perhaps within years, global temperatures spiked. The massive ice sheets that covered North America and Northern Europe began to collapse. Glacial lakes the size of inland seas ruptured their ice dams and discharged volumes of fresh water into the North Atlantic that disrupted ocean circulation for centuries. Sea levels rose, not slowly, not gradually. In some regions, coastlines retreated inland by hundreds of kilometers. Within a single human lifetime, the fertile Arctic archipelagos shown on the Piri Reis and Zeno maps, those green islands with their harbors and rivers and forests, did not sink over thousands of years. They drowned within generations. Imagine watching the world your grandparents knew disappear beneath the ocean. Imagine the urgency of recording what was being lost, of drawing coastlines that would soon be underwater, of mapping mountain ranges that would soon become seamounts. of documenting a geography that your children would never see above the waterline again. This is what the source maps represent. Not mythology, not imagination, an act of desperate preservation by people who understood exactly what was happening to their world and refused to let the memory of it disappear with the ice. Modern climate modeling has now reconstructed what the Arctic looked like during the last interglacial period. The simulations show exactly what Piri Reis drew, exactly what Zeno copied. Green, inhabited, navigable, a world that existed, a world that was lost, a world that was remembered. We are left with a question that official history refuses to ask. If the Arctic was once green and inhabited and navigable, and if the people who lived there were sophisticated enough to produce accurate global cartography, then what happened to them? Not just to their lands, to them. The maps survived. The mathematics survived. The memory of coastlines survived. But the civilization itself vanished so completely that we have spent centuries debating whether it ever existed at all. There is a pattern in how we treat this evidence. Every time a discovery challenges the accepted timeline of human development, it is not investigated. It is categorized, labeled, filed under mythology or pseudoscience, or the work of enthusiastic amateurs. The Piri Reis map sits in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, authenticated, undeniable. The Zeno map is in libraries across Europe, preserved, studied, unexplained. The bathymetric data confirming the existence of these submerged landmasses is published by government oceanographic agencies. None of it is hidden. All of it is ignored, because the alternative, accepting that a sophisticated maritime civilization existed before the last ice age, that they mapped the world, that they watched their world drown, and that we are living in the ruins of a history far longer and far stranger than we have been told. That alternative requires us to rewrite everything, and that is the one thing that institutions built on the current version of history are not designed to do. The maps are real. The lands are real. The question is real. Who drew the first map? And what else did they know that we have forgotten?